Well, good evening now. Thank you for being with us. But look, don't we live in a world seemingly dominated by politicians who show little evidence that they know what they're talking about? In fact, you can't escape the conclusion that without bureaucracy feeding them ideas and what to say, they wouldn't know where they were. Let's get straight into it tonight. I'll be looking at this vaccine issue next week, but just briefly tonight, there was an encounter, as you've heard, in the corridors of Parliament House this morning between the Liberal member for Hughes, Craig Kelly, and the Labor member for Sydney, Tanya Plibersek. Here is some of it.
Did you hear about Professor Clancy? You've got to listen to our most senior immunologist, Tanya. There's Professor Robert Clancy. Listen to him. Go and get his stuff. Read what he's saying, and you'll find out, and then you can come and apologise to us. It's okay?
My mum lives in your electorate, and I don't want her exposed to people who are not going to be vaccinated
listen to Robert,
because of these crazy conspiracy theories that you're spreading.
Well, you're the one doing that because you are the one spreading misinformation.
Well, they both met after Tanya Plibersek had given an interview on Breakfast TV. Craig Kelly was heading towards another television office for his own TV interview. He detoured and confronted Tanya Plibersek, asking with a wry smile, "Are you making any big announcements?" She had just said in an interview minutes earlier, quote, "We're spending $24 million on a campaign to tell people to get vaccinated, and we've got a taxpayer-funded nong running around telling people not to." Well, cameras appeared everywhere and Craig Kelly arrived. Tanya Plibersek had just said on television, he needs to shut up. And then the mini confrontation emerged where she accused Craig Kelly of conspiracy theories. Now, the so-called conspiracy theory is Craig Kelly's persistence that hydroxychloroquine can be used along with ivermectin as a treatment for coronavirus. In the segment you saw, Craig Kelly referred to the Australian immunologist, Emeritus Professor Robert Clancy from the University of Newcastle, who is on the record as saying that Craig Kelly was, quote, absolutely right, unquote, on hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin. The professor's words exactly, quote, early treatment is highly effective. Vaccines are critically important. They should not be seen as mutually exclusive. You need them both, unquote. Professor Clancy said the evidence showed hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin were safe and should be used. But here's the rub. The Commonwealth Chief Medical Officer Paul Kelly said last month in attacking Craig Kelly that there was, quote, no evidence to show hydroxychloroquine or ivermectin should be rolled out to Australians, unquote. You see, this is the problem. The Prime Minister and a would-be leader of the Labor Party, Tanya Plibersek, are saying that she wants her mother to listen to the Chief Medical Officer. But when the government says, quote, listen to the science, unquote, what they don't tell us is they're selective about the scientists to whom they listen. The Prime Minister was at this again today in Question Time.
A principle that I have applied to the chairing both of the Federal Cabinet, the National Security Committee of Cabinet and the National Cabinet, Mr Speaker, has been respect for the expert advice, the expert medical advice.
Yeah, funny, isn't it? We never see that advice. And contrary advice is ignored. It's the same with the vaccine. Craig Kelly is on the record as saying that he's not anti-vaccine. But the point he's made is indisputable. Many are hesitant about being vaccinated. Craig Kelly has said this, and I quote, the way you're going to get over the hesitancy is through full transparency, full debate, no censorship. And that's the guts of it. Whether it's climate change, Donald Trump, coronavirus, hydroxychloroquine, or the vaccine, there is censorship. There is not full transparency. And there's no debate unless you're prepared to get in line with the government health advice orthodoxy on these issues. And if some scientists are funded by the government, won't they say what the government wants to hear? Tanya Plibersek is not alone in showing an unwillingness to respond properly to the questions that thousands of Australians are asking about why we did not use hydroxychloroquine as a treatment for COVID-19 and the question marks surrounding the vaccine. I repeat, Craig Kelly is no anti-vaxxer. I am no anti-vaxxer. But what Craig Kelly is saying is there must be questions answered and greater transparency. I repeat, politicians and government all tell us, listen to the science, but what they don't tell us is they're selective about the scientists to whom they listen. And I repeat, if some scientists are funded by government, won't they say what government wants to hear? Craig Kelly is right. The only way you're going to get over hesitancy, which is shared by many in the public, is through full transparency, full debate and no censorship. And so far, We've had none of all three. That ought to be a concern to us all. The bigger concern, of course, is it's now almost unlawful to have an alternative view.